Bonjour et bienvenue sur le site champagnejayne.com. G'day and welcome to another edition of Champagne Jayne TV. Cheers! Today I'm very excited. I've got a very special guest. It's Australia's most awarded sparkling winemaker. It's Mr. Ed Carr. G'day Ed, welcome to Champagne Jayne TV.
Hello Jane, really nice to be here.
Fantastic. Now, you have created Australia's most pre-eminent sparkling wine.
Yeah, we've had a long time at making sparkling wines of all different styles, and one of our challenges was to make the best that we can. So it's been a 15-year trail, but I think we've got to the point where we're very happy with those wine styles.
Now tell me, what made you come up with the name Arras? Where does that come from?
Arras came back from some of the medieval terminology of tapestry. Mm-hmm. And Shakespeare behind the Arras sort of stuff, and so we felt wine making was a bit of artwork and weaving and such, and tapestry, so it sort of hit the spot.
And tell us, why is Tasmania the best place in Australia to grow grapes for sparkling wine?
Well, for premium sparkling wines, you really need a cool climate. Those cold climate characters give you the finesse and the elegance and the fine, long living structures that you need in a premium sparkling wine. So Tasmania has, by nature of being further south than all the rest of the country, cooler climate. It's got higher humidity, so less variation in temperature. It's a maritime climate. It's got a huge blob of cold water hanging around the outside of it. And all of those things add up, and the ancient soils and site selections add up to giving you all the things that you need to make a great sparkling wine. Brilliant,
and you've brought a few examples along with you today to share with us.
Yeah.
Shall we tell us about these wines?
Well, basically we've made a range of sparkling wines to maybe suit certain palate preferences and tastes, but really at different price points as well. We have the Brut, the first one here on my left, which is the non-vintage style, and that's Pinot Noir driven to make it more fleshy and approachable at a younger age. And then we have a vintage wine, which is to us the next step up in terms of fruit selection. Mm-hmm. Very much our house style of wine making, but fruit selection's tighter, the wine's more aged, it's Chardonnay predominant, which is where we really like to be with our styles at the top end.
Yep.
And it's just a finer, more complex wine. We also have the Late Disgorge, the Ed Carr blend here, which is the top of our range, and that's again top end fruit selection. But the big issue with this wine is the age of the wine.
Right.
Premium sparkling wines, as it matures, gets more complex and rich and interesting. So, sorry.
This one's very special, isn't it? You only make a few bottles of this.
Yes, we
this wine here, guys.
We do have a restricted volume of that. This is the third release. We've made more and more each year. It's a very new market for us, and we've been very happy with the results. The market acceptance has been great, but of course, as this wine is a minimum of 10 years old at the time it's released, there's a lot of crystal ball goes into how much of this wine you should actually make. Right.
Well, listening to you speak's making me very thirsty. Yeah. Shall we start? What should we start with?
I'd start with the Brut, which is the more, not approachable, but I guess the rounder and fleshier versions of these ones.
Now, am I right in thinking that this was released in 2009 or 2010? It's fairly new.
It is new. 2010 was the release for this. I mean, when I say it's a younger, fleshier wine, this is still a 7-year-old wine. So there's no shortcuts in making this style. Age is one of the major factors that drive this along. So.
Can't wait to get my lips around that.
No, it's great when you open a bottle of sparkling, you can smell that yeastiness and complexity without even putting it in the glass.
Oh, it's delicious. Very kind of brioche, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, these are the characters that
fruity.
we're after. Red fruit driven here, so a lot of that sort of lychee, aged red fruit character. But yeah, in the end, just backs up with, as you look at it in a glass, lots of different characters come out. Toast and mushrooms and all of those sort of secondary characters.
And what would you pair this with in terms of food?
These are pretty flexible. We don't need to just necessarily have them as an aperitif style. I think some of the lighter foods, and even in a tasting recently, in a dinner recently, we had the richer of the wines with light meats such as pork, and it just went really, really well. So.
I need to have a sip.
Yeah, but certainly seafoods and lighter styles of food they sit very, very nicely with these wines.
It's quite intensely crisp and delicious, isn't it?
Well, I think that's the important thing about sparkling wine too. It should be a refreshing wine. Lots of character, lots of age, lots of complexity, but just bright and fresh.
Should we compare that now with the vintage?
Why not?
Yeah. Here you go. I'll let you do the work as the winemaker. So your first award was for the CB Brut 1990, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's when I really started to look. Took on sparkling wine only as a career basically, and they were very, very early days with a different company to what I am now. But interesting times. I guess premium sparkling wine in Australia is relatively new, and it's evolved extremely quickly, such that there's a great range of premium sparkling wines on the market now. So if you look at the late sort of 70s and early 80s is when a lot of these wines started. It's not that long ago in winemaking terms.
You can see it's a little bit more golden, and I suppose that you've got a very nice pearl necklace there of the bubbles, haven't you?
Yeah, Chardonnay will go more of that golden colour, and it really does have that more toast and mushroom butter sort of things that you get from aged Chardonnay.
Now, the one that's been available on the market recently is the 2003. This is the brand new release, 2004.
Yes. Yeah.
So, what would you say is primarily the difference between those two vintages?
It's interesting. I mean, we make the wines to style and to house style, but I think what's always interesting about vintage wines is they do reflect the character that you get served up by nature in that specific year. So 03, the previous vintage, was quite warm, and the fruit was very, very generous, and just reflects that effect. Bigger, richer characters, slightly more forward.
This is very citrusy.
Yeah, whereas the 04 vintage was really quite cool, and is maybe more classic, more typical of
crisper
what we do.
fruit flavours.
Yeah, crisper, finer, more citrus, just...
Beautiful. And what would you... So with the vintage, you were saying that you could do a light protein or pork with the Brut Elite. I must say that is absolutely delicious. One of the best non-vintage sparkling wines that I've ever tasted. When we move on to the grand vintage, though, and you've got a little bit more depth, what would you match that with?
I think that's a great seafood match there. Sorry, people often look at me a little bit strange when I say you can often see oyster shell character or a sea brine character in
sea brine, yes,
in sparkling wine, and I think that just sort of instantly gets you thinking about sort of seafoods and fresh seafood.
Beautiful things that come from the sea, and Australia's such a great place for seafood as well. We're quite spoiled, aren't we? Well, those wines smell and taste spectacular, I must say. But I'm dying to hear more about the late disgorged, because that's actually got your name on the signature, hasn't it?
Yes.
So this is quite special. Tell us.
Late disgorged is a concept that we just really wanted to see how far these wines would go, basically, and see how much more character they could develop but still keep their freshness, and really aim to make a top class, basically a world class sparkling wine. As we've said before, I don't see this as a competition but against other producers, but really, there's a lot of wines in the world that are really high quality but very different in style.
Yes.
And our aim is really to be in that top mix and just have our own style for the consumer to choose between styles.
So it's kind of like saying there's a sparkling wine for every moment of your day and every type of meal that you might have.
Yeah, I think so.
Let's try this.
I mean, prestige cuvées are, by their nature, prestige cuvées, so
yes.
Their price points are significantly higher because of the cost of production, really. And you obviously get what you pay for at the end of the day. But they do generally have a lot more age, and to me, they're a reflection of the house style, and they're a reflection even more so of the year as well, the vintage year that they were from.
There is a difference, though, isn't there, between sparkling wine and champagne, in the sense that with a sparkling wine you can actually have 85% of that vintage as a vintage wine, but have other wines as well, whereas in champagne a vintage is purely that one vintage, you can't do multi. Yeah,
we certainly don't have a lot of those high regulations in terms of winemaking. It doesn't mean that our wines are any lesser made, it's just that we have a few less restrictions in what we can do. So for a vintage wine from Australia,
it's powerful on the nose, that one.
It is, it's got a lot of character. You are allowed to have 85% minimum of that year, so it can have other vintage wines in it, whereas in champagne a vintage wine must be 100% from that vintage.
Indeed. Now we know that the House of Arras is the #1 sparkling wine range here in Australia. Which other countries can people find Arras in?
Not many.
We keep all the good stuff for ourselves.
Yeah, it's true. We really do have limited supplies at this stage.
Prestige indeed.
But we are certainly looking at the international market now, and would like to start small nuclei around the world in places where we think people would appreciate this style. So, talking about the time frame, these wines are 6, 8 and 10 years old. We've cautiously built up our stocks, and now we're in a position where the wines are at the right quality and style, and now we have the opportunity to try and take that more to the world.
Okay, but just to let the viewers know, in terms of the price range here in Australia, can you give us an idea about the price point on each of these wines?
Yeah, it's a good time of year to be buying sparkling wine, as you know, for prices, but in general you'll see the Brut between $45 and $50 retail, the vintage $60 to $65, and the LD pushing generally like $180 to $190 a bottle.
Wow. Well, on that note, I feel very special that you shared a bottle of the Late Disgorged with us here on Champagne Jayne TV. So thank you so much for your time, Ed.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers. This has been Champagne Jayne for Champagne Jayne TV with the delightful Ed Carr. I recommend you go out and find yourself a bottle of Arras. Cheers.